Hey guys, and welcome back to Brexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, I was listening to Keir Starmer this morning because Keir Starmer was on the radio, and I'm looking at this country, and this country really has no hope because you know why? It has no one that has got any radical ideas to actually bring this country back from the brink. Well, it's not even on the brink. It's actually like it's coming very close to over the cliff and actually hitting the ground, right, with no safety net. I'm listening to these politicians, and they are all right. When it comes to Labour and the Tories, very very similar. They're just speaking very similar language. But unfortunately, yeah, that is what Keir Starmer probably has to do to get into power. He probably hasn't got much choice in this matter. This is what he has to do to get into power, because really, you know you've got major opportunities, right? And Keir Starmer's taken this opportunity to say, you know what, I'm just going to go like as close as I am to the Tories, even though he knows that a lot of Jeremy Corbyn's policies was very, very popular with the British public, right? Not popular with old money. Old money doesn't like those Jeremy Corbyn policies, because those policies involve sharing much more money out with the people in the country. So therefore, yeah, old money doesn't like that, because old money says, well, these people, we've never given them anything before, so why should we give them anything now? I mean, if you go back to the times of your Oliver Twist and times like that, where these people would be eating a massive luncheon, a banquet, and then you'd have the kids in the workhouse or whatever the hell it was, right, would be eating gruel. So they have never ever wanted to spread any wealth about, even the wealth that's generated from the country. They would prefer, they'd prefer to see that wealth, yeah, go to foreign businesses, go to into private hands, and go to all sorts of different people before they would say, you know what, actually we should be running these businesses for the benefit of the people in this country. Because Britain has got it's got a what would you call it? It's a captive market. But if you take the NHS, for example, the NHS has been run so badly, and what they've done is they've sold off all the service, whether it's catering. They've sold off all the catering, the kitchens that used to be in there, where they could just cook the food fresh for the people in the hospitals. They're like, we don't need none of that, right? We need to centralise that, right? Privatise it and centralise kitchens, right? They can supply all the hospitals, and we'll pay them privately. Yeah. So one of them would have had the company set up, so that they could get that contract. This is all, a lot of this, yeah, is about individuals, right? And, them just taking the absolute piss out of all of our services. The state, the stationary contract for the NHS must be vast, right? And the NHS should have its own kitchens, right, where it's feeding the people in the hospitals with fresh food every day. Who the hell thinks it's better to bring the food on site and then warm it up and shit like that? Who the hell thinks that? Right, but that's what these people have managed to get us to, right? Whereas they should be employing their own cooks, their own cleaners, their own chefs, and all these type of people. Right, they should be employing in every hospital up and down this country. It shouldn't be out to the private sector, right? And then all the canteens and all that inside the hospitals, right, that feed the general public, should all be owned by the NHS. All the they should, what the hell should Starbucks or Costa's be doing in there? Even Burger King and I'm sure they must have a McDonald's probably in one of them, one or two at least, right? But why are all these companies in there? These companies shouldn't be in there. The only private companies that should be in there is probably something like the news agents, right? But everything else should be controlled by the NHS, and all of that money could be going back into the service, because then there's no shareholders. The only shareholders is us. We're the shareholders. So all that money can go back into the NHS, and then the NHS could provide a lot much better services, right? And if they wanted to really cut taxes, right, it would be the way of cutting people's taxes by saying, you know what, yeah, you're paying, you buy your food or your whatever when you're in the hospitals, right, or you pay to go in the car park, they could just charge you 50p. Right, because you know what, a private company, they've got shareholders, they need to make money out of those car parks. So the NHS themselves could just charge you 50p to park in there, right? And all that money still could be, they've got more than enough money to pay for the maintenance of the car park, and to pay for the staff. Right, and then the rest of the money goes straight back into the NHS itself. But no, our politicians will just tell you straight, we can't even run a train line. How the fuck do you expect us to do all this technical stuff? Because we can't run a fucking train line. Look at us. Right, we're weak and we're pathetic. Right, yeah, we might have went to university, but we're a bunch of fucking arseholes. Right, so so much things within the NHS. Right, the NHS should be supplying itself with when it comes to things like penicillin. Because the NHS could it could produce its own penicillin, its own paracetamol. Right, and then its own ibuprofen. Right, and then sell to the rest of the world as well. As supplying the NHS, right? They could produce their own paper because they use so much of the fucking thing. So they could have their own paper mills where they supply the NHS with their own paper, right? And then sell to the rest of the world as well, which would be bringing in billions of pounds every year, which could say, well, you know what, we can cut your taxes because we are taking advantage of a service that we've got that employs over 1 million people. But no, everything, when you look at it, everything, they want to say, oh no, we'll just give that to the private sector. Let the private sector run that. Right? We'll just take taxes from you. Don't worry about, any sensible ideas. No, they don't worry about any sensible ideas, right? Because you know what, well, if you get like a pair of crutches or one of them, one of them, one-arm walking sticks, or a walking frame. Right? All these things are made out of aluminium, right? And they're just like, when you're done with it, just try it away. You think, what? What? You think, what? Outside the hospital where they give it to you, they should have a skip that says, you know what? When you're done, with it, just bring it back and try it in the skip, right? And so that they can, right, recycle it, right? Or if need be, right, clean it up, right, and and send it abroad, because other parts of the world could probably do with those type of things. If you send like metal crutches, aluminium crutches, and bedpans and all those type of things into Africa, into their hospitals, right, they will reuse those things. All they need to be is sterilized and then sent off to these places, right? Or you could just recycle them, right, so that we could reuse them again, right? All those those rubber shoes, what you see them sending out, right? Some people might just wear them home. Never wear them again, right? And these people are just like, when you're done with it, try it away. Right? Bandages and plasters and all these type of things. The NHS should be producing all these type of things, right? And for their own hospitals, and then selling the excess to the rest of the world. They've got all over in this country alone. They've got all the private hospitals, what they could be sending, right? And then all the rest of the world, they could be selling this stuff to. But no, none of these politicians, right? These politicians, what they are, they're a bunch of fucking arses. And I don't understand how anybody votes for these absolute fucking morons, right? As I said, it's a captive audience, right? Let's move on to the housing market. Billions of pounds it takes every year, and these motherfuckers have just sold it, just given it away to private sector. So what the fuck would you do that for? Right? Why wouldn't you, right, be saying, you know what? Yeah, look, every house that we have, we can put people in. Right, and then we're getting paid, and we get paid for it. We don't have to charge people an earth, because we've got the house for 500 years, 1,000 bloody years. You've got the house for as long as the house stands up for, right? And it's in local council's hands or local government's hands, or however you look at it. Right, they've got it forever. People paying rent to live there. Right, council tenants. It doesn't really matter. Even if they're building houses and they're selling them. Right, they're still earning a huge profit, but no, they're just like, oh no, we don't want none of that. We don't want none of that. What the hell do you think we are? Do you think we are competent people to be able to put, programs like that together? No, 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 no. We'll just give that to the private sector. Because that's how these people are with everything. It doesn't matter what it is, yeah? These people are just like, yeah, sell it, let's give it to the private sector. Let them run it. Let them take the multi-million pounds or billion pounds out of it. That's why all of our our gas and electric and water, we are swimming in motherfucking raw sewage shit. We're swimming in, right? And these people are still saying to us, well, we think it might be best if if we take it back into government control and then sell it off as quickly as we can to the private sector again. So what the fuck is up with these motherfucking people? Seriously, on a serious note, how the fuck do they actually get away with this? Who votes for them to do this to you? Who says, you know what? But, the problem is, is that, Labour, it's not like Labour will change any of these things. Labour's not going to change any of these things. Starmer, said he was going to, renationalise and, green policies and all these type of things, right? And he's just walked back on all of these things, right? Completely alienating the left so he can cozy up to the right, because, really it's like Lord Mandelson that's running Starmer. That's why, so all of his policies, you could imagine, are going to be very, very similar to Blair's. So Labour had the chance, but the last time Labour was in power, they had the opportunity to reverse all of the things what the Tories had done. They had the opportunity to reverse the lot. Right. What this country needs. This country really needs people who are. This is none of this. Yeah, takes a scientist to work it out. It doesn't take someone some of the smartest brains in the world to work it out. This I just don't understand. Right, how it is this country's managed to get itself into the position, and the people are not jumping up and screaming about it even more. They're just like, well, we're bringing in the EU. They're just like, oh, okay, we'll just have to get on with it, won't we? And if it's yourself, this is going to cripple the people. Do you really think, right, that people are driving around in like a 2009 Transit or a 2009 Sprinter or a Maximus, right? 2009. Do you really think they're driving around in those vehicles because you know what? They want to. They're driving around in those vehicles because they've got no other choice. That's what they can afford, right? And once the ULEZ comes in now, right, and these people can't actually afford to pay the ULEZ, what are they going to do? Because Sadiq Khan can always talking about so much people are suffering for the air pollution and have died for it. And so, well, how much people have died? And all they can mention is one girl, which is very, very sad. But to do this to millions of people, right, on the back of one person dying of, they said it was like the London fumes, and this was a little girl who lived, I believe, literally on the high street. Do you know what I mean? So, but then, where are the thousands of people that they're saying this is affected, that they're saying that are dying? Because they're saying, well, the thousands of people dying, this is what's happening, right? They'd say, they might, they'll soon, but they'll come out and say, well, there's a lot of asthma. But, people had asthma from when I was at school. People have always had asthma in this country. So, where are all the people, right, that they're saying, well, that this is killing off, right? The truth is, there are none. And, we have Tory MPs, right, standing up for the less well-off by taking Sadiq Khan to court over the ULEZ. What kind of situation is this country in? And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages. Send me a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go for all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages after that. Well, I don't really think, right, that it takes, someone who went to like university, Oxford or Cambridge, or one of the other like one of the other like highest level universities in this country. I don't think it really takes those people to say, you know what, why don't we do this with the NHS, right? Because we can make so much money. I'm sure that it was I'm sure because I'm sure that there was a factory called I think it was called Renfrew. I think it was called. I can't remember. I can't actually remember. But I know David Cameron come along and I think closed it down. And I'm sure they used to make a lot of stuff for the NHS because it was a factory where all disabled people used to work, yeah, or ably challenged people used to work. And I'm sure they used to make stuff for like for disabled people and for for that type of and maybe for the NHS. I think that's the case. I think it was called Renfrew. I can't actually remember now because it was quite a while ago. Well, David Cameron coming along and closed it down. I can't remember, but that's where this country. For me, you just look and think, how the hell have you gone so wrong that now you literally, we're at a stage where the government have to be paying for so many people's lives when they shouldn't really need to, because this country is very often putting itself up against other countries, right? Put itself up against America, for example. Gun culture, no. Put yourself up against America, but in America, yeah, a gallon of petrol or diesel is like between $3 and $4. In this country, it's between £7 and £9. Now, $3 and $4 is not the same as £3 and £4. It's less. Right, so you see, I don't understand how they can put us against like the Americans, or sometimes they even put us against the Germans and say, well, why are you putting us against the Germans? Because in Germany, yeah, your early years childcare is free, because the Germans look at it like, well, yeah, if we can get much more people back into working all the time, right, then it will put much more money into our economy, and we can obviously it benefits. So we can afford to give these parents free childcare up until the child goes to school, and then obviously then they've got their schooling kicks in, and then you've got a ticket that you can get on buses, trams, and trains, right, and take you anywhere in the country. So if you had that ticket in this country, you could go from London, you could go to Leeds, you could go from Leeds, you could go to Liverpool, then you could go over to Leicester, right? Or then you could get on with the same ticket, you could come down to Brighton and then head to Southend, right, and then head back into London on the same ticket. Right, whether it's a train, a bus, or a tram, and that ticket is €49 a month. What would your saving be, right? If you had, your early years childcare was free, right? So you could get your ass back into work, because that's what the Germans like. Well, you know what, yeah? Just take your child, right? You could drop them there, and then you take your ass into work. Imagine that, right? You could drop off your child 7 o'clock, right, till 6 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Right? How much more of advantage will people be able to take? People will be able to take. People will be fine. They'll be perfectly fine because they'll be able to work. But no, in this country, right, we want to put ourselves up against. We can't even put ourselves up against Estonia. Estonia, right, they charge €60 a month, right, for childcare between 1 and 7 years old. €60 a month. What would your saving be on €60 a month if that's what you had to pay, right? And plus, you could get a ticket for £49 to take you anywhere in the country. They're just like, no. We don't need none of that bullshit over here, because we can get to charge people £10,000, right, to go to one destination with a season ticket, right? And you can't even use it on a Saturday or a Sunday. Can't use it in the evening either. Well, you want to come back down, right? You live in Birmingham, you've got a season ticket to come down to London, and then you want to come back down later for a show that night. I say, no, not on that ticket, you don't, fella. Right? You go and get yourself another ticket to travel. Right? You can use that ticket again tomorrow morning. So, that is what this country, and how it's got to be run so badly, I don't know. But let's go over to America. because the 4th of July in America saw some massive shootings, like Philadelphia, 5 killed, another 2 injured. Como Festival in Texas, 3 killed, 8 injured. All on the anniversary of the Highland Park shooting in Illinois, when there were 7 people killed and dozens injured. And these people still believe that guns are safe in the hands of the people. I mean, those are, that's how the Americans just look at those. Because now I can tell you, that there's been, mass shootings in America. Boy, it's, how much days, I'm sure it's more days than we've had in this year. They've had more mass shootings, because I'm sure they're up to, I think they're up to 300 and something so far. Do you know what I mean? Because anything over, I think it's got to be, I think it must be over 2 people, 3 people, or maybe 4 people killed is considered to be a mass shooting. So we just have, like, a bunch of people running onto tennis courts, chucking puzzles and and confetti. Right? Right, that's so British and middle class. Right? But the thing is, right, the poor and the working class, yeah, they can't go out and protest. They can't go out and protest at all, right? Because they got to work. Right? So they got time to protest. That's why the middle classes have to take up that, right? And if you notice how they're just like, all these middle class people, right, protesting. Why they got to get themselves a job? Well, the old man who was chucking the puzzles around there, he looked like he had retired, right, at least 2 decades ago. Maybe a decade and a half ago. Anywho, so that's what's going on in America. In America, you've got, like, 4th of July. It should be a day of celebration, but you've got so much people who are absolute nutters. And when you've got, like, nutters and they manage to have guns, I don't think these people have realised yet that the gun is the problem in their society. One of these days they will. One of these days they'll say, you know what? We have to get rid of these guns. But let's not hold our breath, eh? Let's speak about some Brexit. Because UK foreign investment has collapsed after Brexit, says the UN. Those guys in the white helmets. Right? You say to the people from the UN, listen, right, you people are like a toothless tiger, a lion with no claws. That's what you people are. How dare you try to talk this country down, right? You have got about as much impact as NATO. Is that true about the UN? But I mean, NATO's never... See, NATO never really been tested, has it, NATO? It's not really ever been tested. Do you know what I mean? Obviously at the moment you've got Putin, like pushing a little bit, but it's not like NATO have got together and said, well, this is what we're going to do now, right? And Putin, you're in trouble, right? You need to get yourself into and hide in a babushka doll or something like that. So anyway, so the UN, the UN should just mind their own business. And how dare they even be looking at what foreign investors are coming into this country? Haven't they got something better to do? That's what we should be saying to them. A DUP councillor blames Brexit for Northern Ireland's workforce shortage, as the council have agreed as a motion to extend visas. I know what you're thinking. DUP, really? No. So that would be, because you'd have to put an R in there. And these people in DUP do not understand politics. Well, it looks like they're coming around to it now, because it looks like they're understanding the absolute fuck up that they've made by being fooled by Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson took these people for some absolute jackasses. Just real fools. Right? And you have to wonder how the hell that has managed to happen. But it's happened because they don't understand politics. The UK is edging closer to getting back into Horizon, the £86 billion programme. And the reason why the UK is getting closer is simply because the UK is going round to the EU's way of thinking. Because the EU wouldn't have changed their minds. Whatever the hold-ups was, right, Britain is doing it. Right, they're coming round to do what the EU are making them do. Because you see, the thing is, right, Britain has lost so much of its sovereignty. So it has to do what it is told, which is the reason I can't understand the Brexiters, how you can't see this, how you can't look at this and say, hold on a minute. We have just given them much more power over us than they ever had before. Because at least, right, we had the power to veto anything. Now we don't have that power, right? When they just say, you know what, they're going to bring in the new the new taxes, what they're bringing in. We just have to say, okay, well, when are you going to bring it in? 2024. Is there anything we could do to stop it? No. That's it. We've got no choice in the matter. Whatever the EU, we are at the mercy of the EU, because they could just say to us, well, look, if you don't like our rules and our regulations like you didn't before, you can do this. Piss off. That's what the EU's saying. And, so Britain just has to do, especially, Britain's been begging to get back into Horizon, and now it looks like they're going to, right? But, it's not because the EU have bent over to let us in. They've done nothing. The EU, everything has been done by Britain. Britain has had to bend over backwards, or they've had to adhere to whatever the EU was holding out on to get back in. That's that. Brexit has no bonuses for British businesses, says CEO of Brewdog. Now, I'm going to take it that Brewdog is some type of trendy lager. I'm going to take it. Do you know what I mean? That you would probably serve in a jam jar with handles. But before we go, we really do need to address, Israel and Palestine, because the Israelis have been sending tanks and F-15s into civilian areas, into the refugee camps, right? And just going in there and just murdering the Palestinians. It's like, I think that the Israelis have managed to dehumanize the Palestinians in the same way that they was dehumanized by Hitler. I think they've managed to put that in their mind, that these people, all they want to do is kill us all day, right? They want to drive us into the sea, right? It's one thing wanting to drive someone into the sea, but if you haven't got the ability to drive them into the sea and they've got the ability to drive you into the sea, then, I'd say that, you've probably got the upper hand, and you're just using that as an excuse, like you've just used that for so many years. How you can sit back and say, you know what, yeah, well, obviously these people don't care about their children as much as we care about our children, because they bring their children up to hate us. Well, they bring their children up to hate you because, you know what, you've got them living in the world's biggest prison. If you oppress people, right, then, you can't expect them to like you if you oppress them. I mean, imagine if Hitler did manage to take over this country, right? Then every single time I get a chance to murder a Nazi, that's what I would be doing. I'd be in the resistance, and I'd be killing Nazis all day long, every day. That's what I'd be doing. Right, there'll be no if or buts, right? If we still had motherfucking Germans here, Nazi motherfucking Germans here, right, trying to tell us what the fuck to do, right, then I'd be in the underground resistance. Probably wouldn't be here because, they probably would have, made sure and killed off all the, the blacks and the Asians from way. I mean, probably wouldn't even got the chance to even come over here. But if I was here, that's what would be going on. So I mean, you can't bring people up in oppression and expect them to like you. Israel, right? Israel have the right to defend itself, right? But the Palestinians do not have the ability to defend themselves. And that's what the difference is. I always say to people, well, let me tell you this, right? I'm going to ask you this. If it was the case that that you had no choice whether to be born, right, a Palestinian or an Israeli, who would you be born? Because me, 100%, pass me some of them bagels and give me one of those Tashmaks and one of those little skull caps, right, and I'm all good. Anyway, guys, look, I'm going to wrap this up. My friends, I have to say an absolutely happy weekend to all of you, because today's Friday. So I hope you all have an absolute blessed weekend, and no doubt I shall see you early next week. My friends, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.